can start talking, right? I started recording, brother. But we cannot hear the music though. Can you hear the music?
All right, we can start, sir. I don't know what happened to the recording, but we'll work on it later. You can start, sir.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day of learning with navigating with Noel. My name is Oyemakiwa Taidolu, and I'm based here in Finland, Helsinki, to be precise. And with me is
Oyemakin Wakende, as you can see, I'm his twin brother. I'm based here in Finland also, UMSO specifically. Good to have you here. Let's learn together.
As we know, navigating with Noel is all about impact, impacting the future generations and even the present generation in all areas of life, in all fields of life. And today, we'll be focusing on education since it's January 24th, the International Day of Education.
Yeah, like you said, if you look at the objective of our NWN, one of the core values or the core objective, amongst others, is learning. We have networking also, we have accountability, but learning is one of the core values. And I believe this podcast is targeted towards that also. What can education achieve for us as a people, as a society, and as a nation, as a world, as a global village? Yeah.
So again, the theme for today is education for peace and development. And we'll be looking at this topic with the view of UNESCO. And my brother will give us the definition of education as it relates to what UNESCO has defined in their guideline.
Yeah, so as expected, when we got the topic, the first thing that came to mind was to check research on what has been the objective of organizations like UNESCO, which primary purpose is to facilitate education, scientific research, and the rest. And we saw that they have an objective for 2030, and they have listed about 14 guidelines to achieve, to use education as a tool to achieve sustainable peace and sustainable development and peace. And within that framework is what we'll be basing our discussion on. And to achieve that is define education as an inalienable human right, a lifelong and society-wide process through which everyone learns and develops to their fullest potential, the whole of their personality, sense of dignity, talents, mental and physical abilities within and for the benefit of local, national, regional, and global communities and ecosystems. I would like to quickly point out here, you will notice that they didn't restrict education to the walls of school, to the walls of school, formal learning as we know it. What that means is that even if you are not going to within the formal walls of school, education does not elude you. In your society, you learn. In your family, you learn. And as we have it today, it's a global village. internet has done a lot for us. You can even be out of school and still learn using the available technological resources we have. So we'll be looking at that and see how this can contribute to peace and sustainable development. Yeah.
Yeah, the second word to watch out for there is peace. And so I'll be defining peace also as it was defined by UNESCO. And it says, peace is an international understanding and or peace, international understanding and cooperation are to be considered as an indivisible whole based on the principle of friendly relation between peoples, on cooperation within a wide range of stakeholders, and on an understanding that states have different social and political systems while respecting human rights and fundamental freedoms. So you can see here that for peace to reign, there must be an understanding of individual participants in the process and a mutual respect from the two relationship that is going on between the two individuals, or even more than two individuals, as it may surface. And the last word there will be development. So will you do us the justice of that?
Yeah. Sustainable development under the framework of UNESCO 2030 is the action that empowers learners to take informed decisions, responsible actions for environmental integrity, economic viability, and a just society for present and future generations while respecting cultural diversity. So sustainable development is not just about tech alone. It's also about how we treat our environment, especially when you talk about climate change. It's about how we value our diversities as a people, as lots of people all over the world. So sustainable development encompasses all of that. So, because what we usually restrict that is to talk about IT, tech, and the rest. No, development in all areas of life. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, for purpose of time, because we are limited by time, so we are going to just take one example for peace as education relates to peace, and one example as education relates to development. And then we will now also talk about the different actions that different participants in the society will have to take in achieving this. And so I will start by taking the example for peace, how education helps to foster peace in the world as a whole. And I will quickly use an example here. One of the aims of peace, one of the aims that UNESCO has highlighted for peace is respect for diversity. Respect for diversity. The ability to understand, value, and respect the equal dignity and rights of every person, regardless of race, color, descent, gender, age, language, religion, etc., and any other grounds, as well as their needs, perspective, and peaceful actions and valuing their diverse knowledge systems and learning activities. And I will quickly cite an example here. It's very easy to be boxed up in a place. For example, if you are in Nigeria or if you are in your father's house, you may as well think that the world revolves in your father's house. For example, when I was small, I used to think that my father's house is the whole world, But as we grow, we begin to learn that there are many other places in the world, many other places in your area, many other places in your country, many other places in your world. And in fact, you don't have to get to school before you know that there are many other ethnicities, many other religions, many other races in the world. And now this is where education plays a part, how in fostering peace. Each and every one of us needs to have a knowledge of the different races that are in the world. Maybe not all, but at least a reasonable amount of the different races in the world, a reasonable amount of the different cultures or the different diversities in the world. Because understanding the culture, the races, and the diversities of other people is going to help in interrelationship. It's going to help in communication. It's going to help in conversation. So, for example, if you come to, if you travel out of Nigeria and you come to a place like where we are in Finland here, and you did not educate yourself on the culture of the people here in Finland or what their value system is, you may find yourself in deep trouble. And my brother and I were discussing one simple example yesterday. In Nigeria, one of the culture we have there is the culture of respect. And the way we respect is that the elderly ones, is either you are using sir or ma or auntie or brother,
Bowing down. We are bowing down to greet.
or you are bowing down to
Right.
greet, or you are doing all these kind of things. But I tell you, when you come here, you may find out that it is a different culture entirely. You may find out that when you are bowing down to greet someone, he may see you as you referring to him as a taskmaster. When you are using sir for or ma for him or her, he may feel that you are equating him
Way
to
too much.
or you are doing too much. And so they would, somebody here would just prefer you call it, maybe a 3-year-old boy would call a 70-year-old man by name, and they are okay with that. And if they also come to Nigeria as young as they are, and they are just calling you by name or by, you also feel insulted, you feel disrespected. And when there is disrespect, when there is insult, when there is lack of communication, it does not foster peace. And all this can be avoided when we educate ourselves with the knowledge of different races, different culture, and different diversities. This is just one example because of time. There are many other examples that people have cited.
Yeah, and many other examples. In fact, I would have loved to give you examples, especially when it relates to the way we interact in Africa, Nigeria, as opposed to the way
You can
the
give
Finnish
that
system.
example.
Let's just Finland, for example. You know, in Africa, in Nigeria generally, we speak almost at the top of our voices, you know. And when you start speaking like that here, they almost feel like you are fighting. There's an aggression happening, like you are fighting yourselves. Until they discover, until they learn that, oh, this is how Nigerians or Africans talk normally. And when they're talking, you know, they talk so quietly, you almost cannot hear what they're saying. So you see the diversities. So for someone like them, who have not, for some people here who have not really educated themselves about how Africans are, they may think that there is an environment, something happening, or something is fighting, someone is fighting, and they start calling the police. You know, so this is where education is really important to help us foster peace, to understand our diversities as a people. Otherwise, we will start, you know, conflicting ourselves just by understanding our value system. So I will give an example of the sustainable development, and you can even chip in more examples if you want. So for example, in sustainable development, let's look at education as it relates to that. I'll use a good example of disposal of waste. Yes. You know, what I am used to as a person, I just throw away waste. I don't care whether it's metal waste, I don't care whether it's glass waste, I don't care whether it's bio waste, I don't care whether it's a compostable waste. I put everything together in just one place. But as I grew, I come to understand, as I educated myself, I come to understand the process of recycling. And in the process of recycling, you can't just put everything, every kind of waste together. You know, you have to separate them. You have to separate the glass from the paper. You have to separate the paper from the polythene bags. You have to separate the polythene bags from the metals, because each and every of these wastes have their own process of recycling. So, and you know, when you recycle, part of this is to contributes to climate change. You know, when we don't recycle properly, we affect our climate. It affects our climates, you know. And it may surprise you to know that each of these waste has their own contribution to the development and the even technological development, bio development that we experience today. You know, you can recycle waste of rubber waste, bio waste, even to produce fuel, to produce power, and all of this. All these educations that I have come to acquire for myself, and now it has informed my decisions when I'm disposing my waste, and this has a long way to affect our climate. So that's just one example of education as it relates to sustainable development. Yeah.
I would also like to cite one more example for as it relates to peace, which is very, very important. We talk about gender equality, we talk about racial discrimination or ethnic discrimination. And today, especially in Africa, the statistics, the ratio of men and women being equal, it's really, really saddening. We can take Nigeria for example, in the legislative body of Nigeria, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, women are not up to 10% of the people in that house representing the whole of the country. And in the general population, the population of women are virtually approximately more than 50%, or even up to, I don't know, I don't have the real statistics now. And so gender equality is very, very important, and we need to educate ourselves on how genders can participate equally in fostering peace and development in our community and in the world at large. And the developed world today are doing a lot in that area. We, as Africa, needs to step up. Another way by which education is a tool to fight violence or conflict is in this area of xenophobia. If you notice, many a times in South Africa and some other parts, xenophobia is one big problem, and it is largely due to lack of education. Largely due to lack of education, because the people there are not educated, and there are influx of educated people coming into the country. They take the jobs, and the people that are not educated are left with the menial jobs or without jobs. And because they take the jobs, they earn good income, they live a better life, they have better relationship. And so the ones that are the indigenous people of the land and are not educated feel embarrassed, feel intimidated, and they resort to all this violence from the people there. And this is one reason why education has a big role to play in fostering peace, in stopping racial discrimination and xenophobic attacks like we see in some parts of Africa. Now, we would like to go to the different actions or the different roles that different parts of the society need to play or have to play in bringing making education foster peace and development in the world at large. And we have the government aspect, we have the societal aspect, and we have the individual aspect. And so go with the government aspect first.
Okay, so let's look at what can government do to help use education to foster peace. I think one of the most effective ways in the policy decisions. The legislative arm of the government now need to sit down and be strategic about the policy decisions that they need to implement. So, for example, teacher education, the welfare of teachers needs to be taken more seriously. Policy decisions like the introduction of technology into learning, and affirmative actions probably. For example, in Africa, where some parents, instead of taking their children to school, of course, we have said it's not restricted to school, but the school also plays a major part in education. So there has to be a deliberate action by the government to ensure that every child goes to school, because it's a bedrock, it's a foundation for education. If I don't go to school at my early age, perhaps I may not even know how to use the internet. I may not know how to use the social media to my advantage. So government policies are very important. Government policies in the sense of enforcing or legislating for a better learning environment. better learning tools, better better learning tools for teachers also, equipping our teachers, retraining and retraining and retraining and retraining them, and welfare also. I'll stop at that in the place of the government for now. There are still more that can be done.
I would like to mention more, and I will also cite an example. Now,
Yeah.
and I'm going to use this place, Finland, as an example where we are based in the case of the government. I'm going to tell you this: for every region, for every area, the government has ensured that every area has its own libraries, its own library. This is different from the university library. For example, in a particular, let's use Nigeria as an example, maybe Ikotu or Ijegun or Victoria Island. Each of these areas has its own library where the people can go to and learn and acquire knowledge and acquire skills for the future, to educate themselves. So creating libraries, not just one library for the whole country, no, library for every community is very important as it fosters knowledge and helps people to be better educated.
And the reading also.
Yes, it helps the reading culture. Another thing I want to emphasize is how the European system here, I'm using Finland as an example, encourage education. Encourage education. My brother was talking about training of the teachers. Every now and then, teachers are always trained and retrained on how to better handle children. In fact, in the school that my youngest daughter go to, there are not more than 13 or 14 in that class, and they have four teachers attending to just 13 or 14 children. So you see, when our government says that there are no jobs, I just keep on laughing because there are plenty of jobs available. Because if you can group just one 40 students, so imagine Nigeria, if you group 13 students to 40, how many teaching jobs will be there? So here, 4 teachers are teaching children, and then they also ensure that the children have access to food. You don't have to feed your children before they go to school. They are going to give them food, breakfast, and lunch at school. And depending on how much you are earning, you don't have to pay, or you may have to pay a little, just a little, for your children or for your kids to be educated. And in so doing, the people are properly educated. They are aware of their environment, of how to foster peace and development in the society.
Yes, so and to emphasize, and even if you are not able to go to school, to emphasize, once you have a library around your area where you can go to read and educate yourself, so because you don't have to even wait for the teachers. So let's say, for example, even people that cannot access school here, when they have a library that they can go to and make researches on their own, then it helps everybody to grow. Because don't forget, we have said education is not restricted to the formal walls of school alone. Well, the government makes policies that allows everybody to be encouraged to read, not just read, even vocational education also. It helps a lot for peace and sustainable development. Yes.
Yeah. Now I would like to go to the action of the society, how the society, in being educated, helps to foster peace and helps to foster development. And I'm going to talk about how we as a society can correct misdemeanor just because the whole society is properly educated. And I'll give an example. I'm using Finland because I live here in Finland, right? So let's use an example of an emergency situation. And for example, the sad incident that happened in Nigeria, where over 80 people lost their lives due to a tanker explosion. Look at the reaction or the response of the people in Nigeria. And I can tell you that if such an issue had happened here, the response would have been different. Why? Because the people are properly educated. the first thing they would have done is to call the 112 emergency number immediately. Boy, because some people say that the reason they are going to school board is poverty. Yes, it's poverty, but it is more about lack of education, lack of information, no knowledge of what these things, how these things can damage or bring about death to their lives, and even allowing it to, for example, in Taka expression, warning can cause big damage to the climate. And so the response would have been different due to the education of the people in that society. They would have cordoned off the place and make sure that that flame that was burning and the people that died would have happened this type of place. The response to emergency is different.
To add to that, societal conditioning. There's what you call societal conditioning. So when you are used to doing something in a certain way in a place, when you go to another place and you notice that they are not used to doing it that way, subconsciously you tend to blend it. Okay, so for example, I give an example. If you are used to throwing stuff out of the car, throwing stuff out car, or peeing anywhere, which contributes to the health hazard of people, defecating anywhere. When you get to some certain place, for example, where there are consequences for actions like this, you subconsciously you are conditioned. That's what we mean by societal actions. You know that I can't just be walking around and throw something down because there's someone who is going to call me to action and say, no, you don't do this way, because of the education of that society. So you see, there is a way that the society, if properly educated, can add and contribute to education for sustainable what as a tool for sustainable development. So societal conditioning is very good also in affirmative actions like this.
I would like to give a personal example concerning that. I was driving on the road and I wanted to park somewhere. And for me, you can park. I just parked on it. I thought it was just a normal grass. I parked on it. And immediately I parked, a man saw me and came out of his house immediately and told me, you cannot park there. You are damaging that plant. You are damaging that life. Because he understood the value of what that plant would do to his community. Probably they were growing that plant to
the environment,
make it free and contribute to the better breathe, better oxygen, better air, better air in the environment. Clean air. Thank you. And I just drove my car on that grass, thereby killing that grass. He was really, really unhappy, and he came out. That was one of what we call societal conditioning or societal correction that comes as a result of proper education in society. We want to talk about the last one, which is individual action.
Yeah, individual actions. I think we have been mentioning it in passing. So individual action is the extent to which you go all out for yourself as personal development. Personal development, like we have said before. You read about cultures, read about different races, read about the different ethnicities, read about the development going on in the world. What are the newest things that people are exploring? Space engineering, artificial intelligence, climate discussions. This is where your own personal actions comes to play, individual actions. So it's all about learning, relearning what you might have learned before, learning new things, and making the changes that are due as expected. Yeah, that's what I think individual action.
We can also cite an example on that. Today, in the generation that we are today, you can see that social media is a buzz, a real buzz. For example, just recently, TikTok was banned in US, and you could see the out, and the new president had to go and discuss with them. Now, what do we do our social media apps on our phone? What is your commitment to how I interact with the social media apps on the phone? For example, now we are talking about using YouTube or StreamYard. Is one app by which we are going to get to. Now, you can decide that, okay, whenever I go to social media, I want to go there to learn, to seek knowledge. And one of the ways you can seek knowledge is going to navigate well our social media platforms on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, because there you will find all kind of learning opportunities that are given to you. Instead of going to Instagram, click on Instagram, at the Insta blog and the not and all
That's the story.
do
Yeah.
not contribute to the peace or that development. Look at what Elon Musk is doing. Going to the space, you know, and everything. You can see all these things on social media. Those are the things I want to commit myself to doing, learning about what is going on in this world, so that you and I will not be behind. Because if we are behind, there will be a disparity, and when there is a disparity, there will be problems of peace. There will be problems of
in fact, if you look at the recent elections in the US, you will see that the social media played a major role in the elections as an alternative media to the legacy media. So if you are someone who does not, for example, you can see how the politicians leverage on the tool of social media to take territories, to conquer some, to win some cities, some states for themselves. You see how they were able to utilize it properly. So likewise for us as individuals, there are many resources, educational resources on social media. You have Khan Academy, you have NWN, you have Duolingo, you have all of these are things that you can use to equip yourself. So we're talking about learning about other people's languages and cultures. You have Duolingo for that. You can learn about any language right from where you are sitting. As you're sitting there, you can say, I want to learn about German, I want to learn Russian language, I want to learn Yoruba, I want to learn Igbo. Duolingo is there to help you, you know. So these are just typical examples that you use as for your personal self to develop yourself in fostering peace and sustainable development. I was going to talk about research and scientific development, but I don't know if we have time. So
you can talk about it in just 2 minutes.
Yeah. So for example, if you look at our universities nowadays, we are not really leveraging on what we call global village in our universities. So take for example, the European system world, the American world, they are very rich. They have these resources, these facilities to do research, scientific research. But actually, you say Africa is not yet there, but really you can start from where they stopped. So take for example, I've always taught here that science is not just limited to just creation or development. Science has processes to it. There is design, there is fabrication, there is characterization. So if you are not yet able to fabricate, as Africa, we can focus on designing. And this is where our government needs to put finances on. If we cannot have these tools, we can focus on designing, where we design new technologies, you know, and when we make our design right here on our computer, we can send them out to these countries where they can be fabricated. And before you know it, Africa starts to put themselves on the global stage where researches are done. We don't have to wait to have all these tools, you know, and that's one way that we can use education for sustainable development, you know. But there are a lot to talk about when it comes to this, especially science. But we can't exhaust all of them here in this place.
We talk more about STEM because we didn't have time, because we want to focus on the focus of the formal education alone. But what we were talking about designing, I wanted to say one app that if you don't know is MATLAB. Avail yourself of MATLAB, learn about it, and you can already start designing for wherever you are in the world. And when your design is good enough, send it to universities.
In fact, you can collaborate on your own with these universities. You don't even have to pass through the four walls of universities. All you need to do is leverage on the social handles. For example, LinkedIn, that's a professional handle where you can meet different doctors and professors all over the world to help you in fostering to help you with your designs and the likes. So you see, there are a lot to do. There are a lot to do to leverage on with the social media, to leverage on with technology. ChatGPT is there. Do you know you can write a code right here in your house without having any knowledge about coding? You know, so leverage on all these things. This helps for sustainable development.
and
Yeah.
it helps the peace. I think we are going to
Yeah.
stop here for this team, and I hope that you will pick one or two things from what we have discussed and begin to work on them so that you can also participate in fostering peace and sustainable development in the world that we in and in the world that is to come. If I tell you the world is changing every day, and we have to move with it, we have to be conversant with what is going on and not be left behind. Till we see again on this
Keep,
platform.
keep following
Blessings.
navigating as well. You'll get all the learnings.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye bye.